How many people here are thinking real estate? Wow, you should all be raising your hand. It's like the largest single market there is for it right now, doing VR for real estate. I've got a company in Chicago called JD Power Construction. They're supplying daily updates in VR for their client, which is the Chicago Cubs, as they rebuilt the exterior of Wrigley Field. They're also doing the same with the flagship Apple store that's being in Chicago. But they post on a private server live VR updates so people can see how the construction is going. And in the case of the Apple store in Chicago, which is their key, they have 7 nodes set up on freestanding cameras in weatherproof housings that are just following what they're doing. It's amazing what that is. And when you think about the kinds of things that you want to do with VR, I mean, how many people are thinking about doing episodic or storytelling? It's difficult. How do you do the transitions? How do you get it to follow? I mean, we're going to do one on lighting tomorrow, first thing, and literally we're going to show you some stuff and try and pick it apart, because one of the problems with lighting VR is actually just the complexity of seeing everything in the shot. And how you decide what camera you want. Is everybody going to work in 360 all the time? Are you going to work in 360 spherical? Are you going to work in 360 cylindrical? Are you going to work in 270? Meaning 270 degrees. So like the Nokia camera only shoots 270, so you don't see anything behind you. It's really easy to hide lighting and operators that way. And it's that kind of stuff that, it's not going to like me here. I have to get the devices that work on the same frequency as the and what you see a model in there. This is actually an interesting process of this, because there's a lot of companies. 360 Rise generates 3D models that you can print yourself to make your own camera. This will post later on. If you guys want to see anything on this, I'll actually put it up in about 2 weeks. I'll post it so that you guys can find it on my blog. That is it. Not everything is 360. Not everything is 360 spherical. Not everything is 360 cylindrical. Spaces is, how do you hide the camera operator, the foot of the camera, the microphones, everything that you need to go in a shot? How do you do a moving shot without getting the guy out of it? You have to think about those kinds of things in these environments. And you have to think about other things like, gee, there's the reverse of this, which is mapping for volumetric content. This is actually a project where they're, instead of shooting VR exterior, they're shooting VR of a single object to be able to map it. It's kind of like those my wife looked at it and she said, "Oh, that's the dress cam from the Oscars." Yeah, kind of, except a lot more cameras operating at one time rather than a sequential series. This is a pretty basic rig. I have a GoPro version of the same thing, you get into issues when you have lots of different things. More cameras is traditionally better for VR hardware. The more cameras you have, if something fails, you're covered. The more cameras you have, the more cameras you have, also the ability to control parallax and do true stereoscopic, because that's it. Yeah, jump in.
What's that called, that rig?
It was a custom rig. It's actually something I had from a Sphere.
Really?
It was built specifically for that. I think there's a...
It's called the Excalibur.
Excalibur? Oh, thank you. Did I stand correct?
Yeah, that's awesome.
See, and that's why interacting is good, because I don't know everything. And in this room, there's people who know a whole lot more than I do about certain things. Excalibur, thank you. Because I have one that was manufactured like that was not a purchased rig. So
it's brand new.
Okay, that's the thing. All of these most of the stuff I'm going to show is actually somebody's designed for concepts for rigs. So these are, and about half of the companies I'm showing have stuff here to show. I was actually kind of surprised at that. So, yeah, if I make a mistake, please jump in. I love the fact that people know more than I do. Everybody always kind of stands in awe of me and goes, "Oh, you know so much." It's like anything. I know what I don't know, which is a lot. This is closer to what Blair was doing. And you're talking about weight too. This is kind of little Cook's anamorphics on it.
Not good for shoulder mount, is it?
What?
Not good for shoulder mount, is it?
Well, you know, shoulder mount, you get a lot of 360 of the side of the operator's head, you know, ear hair and all of that. You don't really do those, so. In all honesty, I don't know anybody who, I mean, the funniest one I've seen was that a guy walked around at the Super Bowl, you know, American football, with a Gear 360 on the end of a stick. Yeah?
And you might want to address this as we go along, just because I know it's a integral part of the success of some of these projects is, when you show these rigs, can you address as we go, because they'll be different, the syncing of them? Is that, especially when you're talking about the 3D?
You mean syncing the cameras?
Well, yeah, because you showed like 4 different rigs so far, and that's...
And none of them have syncing capabilities, so I got to this.
That's why I was saying, you know, like the solar one, for example, if you don't address that, how can it possibly work well as far as...
You know what, it's funny, because that's actually the part of it, since most of the people here are not at that level, talking about syncing multiple cameras when they're mostly doing GoPro kinds of rigs, or little ones like that, it's kind of non-existent. You can't sync a GoPro. You can sync a GoPro Odyssey rig, you can sync the GoPro custom rigs, but most of the rigs that people are going to find are not going to sync. You're going to have to do it manually. And with these kinds of things, particularly with Reds, which is really difficult, they have issues sync locking to each other. I mean, it's stereo. We had the same problem syncing cameras in stereo. Genlock is what you use. And you sync a whole bunch of cameras together using a technology called Genlock, where you're actually locking the timing of the signals together. Most of the cameras that we use for VR don't even have that capability.
So you just budgeted...
You have to cheat it, yeah.
As well as you can do it?
Yeah. Well, you start doing things like slates and claps, and you you go back to the old days of having to set markers. You know, you use a real slate, and you have to walk around. Joint uses a real interesting technology because they have an app that actually syncs their audio sync for everything, and they use a custom app. It's a variation of the kind of app that any audio guy uses to control a certain device. He sends a signal back and it records what it is so they know what that device is and just locks it. But syncing is an issue. And what we're talking about with syncing is literally it's Genlock. It's getting all of the cameras to start and stop and record frame accurately together. Impossible with GoPros.
Now, there's a company that actually, Timecode Buddy company, makes it back to GoPros that.
Yeah, and I'm going to tell you right now that you're going to have enough tolerance slot between each of 4 to 6 or 8 or 25 cameras that'll be absolutely useless. In my opinion, I have. Sure, jump in.
Yeah, the GoPros actually sync to within a couple of pixels on the Odyssey rig.
On the Odyssey rig, yeah, I know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's because it's a customized rig for that purpose. But if you're talking about putting together a 3D printed one that you made at your home, or a simple one that doesn't have that, no, they don't do that.
Yeah, you need the proprietary backpack.
Yeah. And that brings up a point for everybody. There are multiple different levels of this. His 14 rig, 14 camera red rig, I mean, think about how much we're talking about in cash just for the cameras, not all the accessories, the power, and everything else. The power limitations, the weight of a rig of that type. That's the other thing you have to think about. Was that kind of rig perfect for what you want to do? For most beginners, I'd say no. For people just wanting to get started, I think those are optimal ways to learn how to start doing VR quickly and efficiently. And for $300 to be able to get in the game and be able to start understanding how to do VR, it's kind of amazing. It's a price point that makes it worthwhile for a lot of viewers. And because you're doing that, mostly on your phones, I mean, let's be honest, you're doing it on phones and iPads. That's what the control for all of these are. The Gear 360 only controls from a phone, which is really hard to do when you have an iPhone and it wants a Samsung device. Syncing?
Yeah, syncing stuff. I mean, we have timecode, Genlock, and it's a challenge. I mean, we have a lot of wire.
You find that there's more flexibility in low light.
The question was, do you find it better in low light with that kind of rig? And the answer is yes.
Oh, definitely, in part just because it's a higher camera system, but as Gary alluded to, it's also, the price point becomes kind of silly. So, I mean, the company I'm with, our initial clients are very big time clients because they're the ones who will spend that kind of money. But like everything else, there is different.
All those cameras you're shooting at an 8K?
We're shooting at a 6K full frame on Dragon, so we're doing about 15 gigapixels per second.
Don't the data loader.
Well,
This is the other part of this big equation.
if the data was, yeah, I mean, the regs of the max write speed of mags and bandwidth camera, you have to do 275 to 300 megabytes per second. So regardless of what, you have to adjust the compression ratios and things like that, but it just can't write any faster than that. It's just a data throughput issue. So 14 times 300.
Yeah.
We go medium.
And when you're talking about the jaunt camera, you've got 25 SD cards, 24 cameras and one audio card. And the jaunt system, which I'm not going to go into, is kind of interesting because they want to upload everything to the cloud. And I'll show you some pictures. I'll talk about the jaunt stuff as we get farther in because I've got some jaunt pictures in there. But most of the rigs are pretty simple. I mean, these are pretty basic setups that allow you to record something, and you basically turn them on. I have a Sphere rig that plugs into this. It gives me I do it as just a 360 cylinder, and it allows me to do a live stream in real time. The interesting thing about Sphere, which a lot of people are doing now, is guys like Blair's company used the Sphere rig from Teradek for preview of what they were seeing. And they didn't use it for the actual stitch or anything. They used it just to understand how and what the field of view is, how they were working. So we're using a wireless connectivity just as a preview function for a larger format. Nokia's here. This thing's been pretty interesting. I didn't think I'd like it at first. It has its own workflow. But Nokia's built a whole engine on the backside for live.
Yeah, the live preview is definitely there.
It
It brings people to the party because there's not that many people out there at this point who have extensive experience shooting VR. So pretty much everybody that's getting into it has ideas for it or sees it as something they can do to expand their portfolio of what they're capable of doing, wants to go into a VR project, so they get the opportunity, they're going to take it. But because they don't have the depth of experience, without any way of seeing it as they're doing it, it's pretty scary. I mean, you don't want to be the guy, oh yeah, I can do this, and it looks like crap. So there's a big security blanket there, having that live preview.
This is the Odyssey rig that we were talking about that allows you to sync Genlock to GoPro cameras. A lot of people, GoPro saw this and actually, produced this. And they released a different design on the internet that you can build for about $10,000, which sounds like a lot until you realize what actually goes into it and how much is available for you. But these are the kind of predominant cameras. The action cameras are the predominant ones that are used in most people's content. Let's go back before I go much farther and get into some of the other things. What are you guys looking to do with VR? You're just going to do travel pictures. There was about a dozen of you that said you wanted to do, serious content. What are you using the content for? How are you creating? Yeah.
Product marketing and commercials.
Product marketing commercials. Now, how would you do that?
Trying to figure that out.
I actually have an example I can play there. That's a good example from a company, and it was actually done by a builder showing how they did different kinds of configurations for lighting diagrams and all of that. And a lot of the best case pieces I've seen for VR so far have either been for automotive, travel, or home building, apartment building, real estate, all of those kinds of things. Those are the current ones I see. Yes, sir?
Live concerts.
Live concerts. That's good and that's bad. I don't disagree with it. I've seen few that have made me feel like I was there. The Paul McCartney one from John was one. I did not get to see, but there was a concert that was held on, I guess it was Wednesday night where Immersive VR showed their new streaming broadcast and live VR transmission dedicated truck. Tomorrow afternoon, we're doing a directing session with Lucas Willowson and the Diamond Brothers. And they're going to be here. And Lucas has been one of those people who's probably about as far ahead as anyone else in VR as I know. I did VR projects with him 2 years ago. What the marketplace is right now. And it's interesting. We started on Johnson and gone to everything else. But again, this was an early prototype of the camera. the issue with how do you show, are you of the philosophy, let me just ask you a question here. How many people think that you can't retouch a VR image? Well, that's good. People learn really quickly. You have to take yourself out. You have to take the boom pole out. You have to take all kinds of things out of the shots. And that's where tools, Dashwood has some VR stuff for Premiere, Metal has some things. There's a number of companies out there that have VR products and plugins that still work, that work better for you, that allow you to do this thing. One of the things that I keep running into is how to do a transition from one scene to another. You know, how and where do you make the transition? How many of you are concentrating on audio? Oh, that like 3 hands went up. Oh, that's really good. Audio is part of the hardware. How do you do the cues? You have to think about the cues. If your viewer is looking here and somebody's walking up behind them, how do you give the visual cue if you don't understand how to do spatial audio? And that's actually one of the biggest flaws in the way people are doing VR right now, was they're forgetting about the audio factor. How does that control your viewing experience? How does that make you a better filmmaker? Because if it's not good radio, it's bad television. And movies are the same way. If you can't hear it, we did a session yesterday, Blair and I were talking, and it's like one of the things is, people will take shitty image all day long. Crappy cell phone video is our life now. Whether it's a car getting dragged behind a tractor trailer, they're going, help me, or somebody getting dragged off a plane in Chicago. Crappy cell phone video, we're worth it. But if you can't hear it, if you can't hear the actor talking, if you can't hear the words being processed, if you can't hear the music, people will turn away quickly. People will turn away quickly. These things go all over the place. I mean, I literally have all of this as a head case rig, obviously. I've seen them done with Blackmagic cameras and IO Industries cameras. We even have one here that was done with a series of Codex cameras. And the guy who designed it was going to speak at the VR data handling session that got booked, but we still have some of the slides to talk about it. But for those who don't know, Codex stuff is very, very expensive. And it was probably as expensive as Blair's rig to do 14 weapons. So, but think about that. And think about how all of these are configured.
It's a nightmare. There is no end to this.
You guys are taking pictures of it. I did the same thing. I just went to Google and typed in crazy VR rigs and got some crazy shit there. Well, we all do it. I farm the information because it's interesting. This is a great way to get something. This is the Codex rig. There's 14 Codex recorders there. Or $500,000 in hardware.
And it's shooting a wedding?
What? And oh, by the way, and they cheated. They actually put it in an electric wheelchair. And I didn't realize that until I was talking on the phone about the shot. But they have it on a remote-controlled electronic wheelchair, so they just rolled it in and out of the shot. Well, so you're doing it. This is actually a dance that they were doing. And it was actually part of what was done for Dancing with the Stars. And they actually had the rig traveling with them in the shots. So we know crazy people, so. Different version of that one. Actually, I repeated that, didn't I? Oh, no, that's a different shot. But again, hardware's kind of interesting. And while I'm showing a lot of really, really high-end hardware, I really do think that the Theta, the Samsung, the Kodak, the Contour, there's a bunch of people who have these small 360 cameras. GoPro just came out with a new one that does 360 4K with 2 things that will ship like in this summer. I forgot what it was called. It was just announced. What? Fusion, thank you. Because I saw it and put my name in it right away because it's like, okay, that's pretty cool. Yeah.
It's just a question, this picture illustrates it. Now, this is using different lenses on the same rig. Is that something that can easily be taken care of?
Well, it looks like it's different lenses, but I can assure you they're all the same focal length.
Okay, I wasn't sure if this was...
But, to answer your question, how do you correct, if you use lenses of different manufacturers and different types, they have different characteristics. They look different, they respond differently, they may have different apertures, they may have different optical qualities. And what happens with this is you may get, okay, you got a gold in here, you got this red one, which is, we'll say is a different lens. When you get to the edges of that, the edges of the frame, where they overlap to control the stereoscopic space and where the seaming is, if you've got aberrations, chromatic or any other kind, on the edge of the frame, you're going to run into an issue where it doesn't stitch right. It doesn't function properly. This is 360 Heroes, not 360 Rise. This is one of the 3D printed versions. So you can buy the model to build your own rig on a 3D printer.
They're all free.
But
Most of these rigs are free, the models.
the models are? Oh, because
On Thingiverse.
they used to charge for them. I know, because I bought one of the patterns to see. And my problem with it is every time I pop the rigs in, or the rig would jostle. We were doing a movie. I had one, we had a couple less cameras now. We were doing a moving shot, and every time it hit a bump, it would break a camera would just snap off. I went back to steel. Made aluminum, made a whole lot more sense. So. Shoulder mountable, to answer your question. I love how they've actually gutted this Mini completely, and this is just batteries to run. Because, oh gee, did you think about that too? The cameras are not always self-contained. You have to power them also. You have to sync them, you have to power them, you have to power the audio. It gets kind of complicated. Can get rather. You know, Blair's done what I assume is what a third of the world does, is they put on their goggles and they get lost when they forget that there's other people in the room. I have a running joke about that. It's like, you know, we're all going to be in here, we're going to go into a public place where we put on goggles and go into a space by ourselves and forget that we're in a room with a whole bunch of other people. And I've seen it already when I walked through conventions and everything. I was unfortunate, I couldn't go to VR LA last week. There was a big VR conference in LA because I was booked on something else. But you got to think about that kind of stuff. You know, how are you as a user going to present it? I find it interesting that more and more people want to do this. One of the things I keep for you, we talked about concerts, for doing concerts with them. And I've done a couple with chefs. You know, high-end kitchen, put a VR camera at the expediting station so that people can watch it out there. Stream just locally. It was literally just did as a test because the chef wanted to try it. Where we put a streaming camera literally at the expediting station where they're finishing up the food and doing the final plating and all of that. And it was very interesting. It's a 360 camera. And people needed to turn away from the chef and look at the kitchen more, even though it was farther away. People would not look at what we set up as the focal point of it. They wanted to see the entire environment. And because we were doing these tests, we actually monitored what stream, kind of basically which way they were oriented. And the funniest part was when people started looking at the ceiling in the kitchen. I didn't understand that. But it was an interesting application for all of this. This is big business. I've been to 3 car shows. I've actually produced content for 2 car shows and been to 3 car shows since I did that. And this has now become a major source of entertainment and viewing in car shows. How can you get the experience of driving a car? You know, and I've got clips later on of people in chairs and everything else, do the feedback. But think about that for amusement park rides, for the visual experience of going and doing things. Scuba diving. Has anybody looked at any of the scuba diving VRs with the shark attacks?
There's an amusement park that raised millions, dozens of millions. They're still raising money, opening sometime, but it's a whole amusement park based on VR. It's somewhere in the States. I don't remember where. I can look it up, but I read about it.
I'll keep it up. I started to say something nasty. But it's interesting, you know. We get to be a whole room of this. See, it's Blair. I told you. Except he's standing instead of sitting. But this is one of those things that I laugh about in VR, because I've actually seen this. And All the sensations go away. I get to do things in fun places. This is actually a shoot we did last year in February of 2016 for NFL Films. They said, why are you on the beach for NFL Films? We didn't have badges, so they sent us on a wild goose chase around the. We were there shooting the Pro Bowl in VR for NFL, just to be used at the NFL Draft in 2016. It was the only time the content was ever shot. And what we ended up doing is we took a crew, and they said we didn't have our badges yet. They said, "Oh, you don't have anything to do? Here's 2 cameras, a police escort. Go take touristy pictures of Hawaii." God, I love my job. Spent a whole day and a half actually, driving around Oahu, doing touristy shots with full support of the Hawaiian government and state troopers to take us everywhere we went. It was, I had a great job sometimes. There's a bunch of these that'll pop up later on. This was actually the waterfall shot we did. And here's one of those examples. How do you do scale? Where do you set a tripod for VR? Do you do high? Do you do low? Can you cheat perspective when you shoot in VR?
You better be, I'm sure. Then it's going to turn out the way you think.
Well, and this is one where we actually could, because there's no people in the shot. So we actually lowered the tripod. The tripod's actually over this high. And it made that little waterfall, which was only, about this high, made it look magnificent, because it made it look like it was giant. And nobody ever realized the scale issue.
Yeah, we generally keep the lens height at eye height. So that when you're standing in the headset, it seems cool.
You have to.
Yeah, we tried some other things.
When you start doing other perspectives, and you go up and look over and you're doing overhead, like, a drone action or something, it's really difficult. Is that a question back there, or are you just stretching?
Just stretching.
Okay. Hey, I just asked. Yes?
So originally when we talked about VR, it was about virtual worlds, not 360 video.
Right.
And of course now you can actually put the two together to put 360 video
Correct.
into a virtual world. If you're trying to shoot for that, you talk about perspective here, what are the kind of rules you start to think about when you're trying to put a virtual world inside a 360 video in terms of the shot?
Well, what we do, we actually create a volumetric scene. So we have an algorithm, and it rebuilds in 3 dimensions. So we actually are volumetric. So every pixel has an RGB XYZ value. So I'm having trouble getting that to work because the laptop runs on a 1070 card. It just doesn't seem to be very happy running the Oculus right now. But you can move around, and you can duck down and do all this kind of stuff, moving around in room scale, and everything moves and stays coherent where it's supposed to be around you. So we actually have essentially an XYZ mesh. And so we can bring in other assets, photogrammetry assets, VFX, things like that, and then we can put them into our mesh, and then all the scale and perspective works, and the stack up works. So like you can move around, and you can see, like I can look underneath and see what's behind and whatever, and all that stuff stays coherent.
Is there a cloud point involved? Is there LiDAR in that?
We have a LiDAR system, but we are capturing so much visual information that through a technique I can't talk about, we're able to determine depth and location.
Really? It's extrapolated from visual information?
Well, sure, why not? NASA's done it for 60 years. Well, no, it's exactly the same principle. I mean, when you have an established data stream, and you have perspective and based on lenses, and the lenses are all mapped.
But he just described moving around the video
Yes.
shot, looking and not losing perspective,
So
not losing gravity.
basically, it's a ball of canvas, right? And so any particular, like let's say this gentleman's face, it's going to be seen kind of out of the side of one of these lenses, and maybe just a little out of the side point from this pair, and then this pair is going to get a really good look at him, and then this pair is going to get a side look at him, and the ones that are shooting up are going to get kind of good. So we're getting so many angles that we're able to, it breaks at some point. I mean, you can't walk 20 feet, right? Because eventually you're going to get outside of where the overlap from the camera perspectives provides you with the ability to do that moving around. But it's room scale. So for the consumer, we're thinking how many people have a 40 by 40 foot empty room just laying around their house. Okay, that would be this much of the population, I'm thinking, right? So 10 by 10, 12 by 12, we can handle that. That's a typical room size where there's not furniture and so on. So you should be able to move around pretty easily. And of course, the other problem is, at least at the moment, is the tether. So the cable's only so long. I mean, you can, we might mount to the ceiling and do some of that kind of stuff so you don't trip over it, but it still becomes a limiting factor.
You're starting to make like these exo.
Well, basically, a backpack computer, like a high-end laptop with a
Well,
battery.
and
So
remember too,
there are ways to do it in a backpack.
and remember too, you can actually, as a precursor to this, during camera setup, because it takes days to set these rigs up, you go through and establish how things look. So you can actually photograph a grid system on the cameras, and that's going to give you the volumetric mapping data that you're going to need translated later.
Yeah, there's a lot of
because they're not zooming, the lenses are all fixed. So you have the ability to, if you're thinking ahead of time, you go out and map, and you do rings or targets or something else at specific known distances from the nodal point of the rig, and then you can set a direct correlation to that in any environment.
And there is a secret sauce out there.
Well, of course there is.
Right,
Yeah, of course there is.
right.
There would be. There always has been. But just on the flip side, you can create a basic functional volumetric set with a couple of targets and just shoot all the cameras simultaneously with fixed points of reference, and you can control the volumetric data that way without having to build all the math. Yeah.
I'm not confused, but I'm just wondering, when you talk about VR, and how much of this is, and what you guys do, how much of this is 2D, and how much of it is actually 3D that's actually, I noticed on a lot of the rigs, the actual interoculars of some of the cameras are not matching, and some are. And how much, and some, when we're talking about...
Well, but see, that's the virtue of shooting 360, because you have a full 360 degrees. Wherever you turn, the eyes are equal.
How much of the content do you as full...
Most of what's out there that I've seen is 2D. It's essentially monoscopic, spherical, 360-degree video. That's 90-some-odd% of all video.
But that doesn't mean that it has to be. And it's funny because all the stuff I produced was actually all stereoscopic 3D, because the stuff I was doing originally was the jaunt camera. There's just so much information. There's so much overlap between 24 separate nodes that it allowed you to do a lot. I blacked that out for a minute because it wasn't a Make America Great sign. It was actually this was the Pro Bowl last year. And this was the opening sequence where they're doing the national anthem. And what you don't see is in the next shot, there's 2 VR cameras down there. This was a year ago. We were already doing that. This is 2 jaunt rigs in the front of all of this. It wasn't supposed to be a America First thing. It was just giving you an idea what it is. This is a clip of us in Honolulu. This is Waikiki Beach. Need my fat right there. Sure. It's funny, we walked out with NFL logo here, it was hilarious. Everywhere we went in the islands, they loved it.
So sorry, just carrying on from my previous question.
Sure.
We talked a little bit before about the difficulty of syncing cameras in a particular rig, but you just showed me using 2 separate rigs.
Right.
Is anyone trying to sync 2 separate rigs so you can actually extend that?
Again, companies like Jaunt have the ability to do that. There's the technology is such, and they do it electronically because they have a custom slating app that actually allows them to generate tone signals that cover all the cameras. They actually can then marry those 2 signals together, because just like they would with audio timecode, they're not gen-locked to each other, but they have a reference point that's equal in both systems, and they can then align them based on the tone signal that's generated to calibrate in the initial setup. This is one of those things too that it's like, this is pretty high-end gear, and not going to be something that everybody does. I know everybody wants to sync all the cameras, and they think it's important. This is actually this is the Kodak 360, just set at my desk. And it's funny because people don't think about that. And it's like you want to sync the cameras because you think you need to, but the reality of it is that there's going to be enough variance by the time you turn around that a lot of times the hiccups are not seen because the person's not looking in that direction.
I'm talking about trying to sync them so you can build a bigger depth map.
Well, what we did is there's a company called Arita that makes timecode gear, and they have one that works off of GPS. And so we were able to use that in order to get timecode to work across sort of different worlds that are colliding, for lack of a better term. And that fixed us. But one of the things we had to do, we literally reached out to Red directly because because we have relationships with them, and they rewrote a version of their firmware specifically to provide us with 60 frame per second full integer. Because that allowed us to work with the GPS system, because as soon as you go to fractional, then it all hits the floor. Because anything that's sort of broadcast world, 5994, 2997, all that kind of stuff is butter. But as soon as you step outside of that world, that's like, there's no way to get sync back. And so we had to go to a full integer shooting in order to fix that.
There's a question over the corner.
Yeah, so I know you guys have been working with lots of cameras to get the monoscopic 360. I am curious to know with light field tech, like light show cameras and stuff like that, where you're able to get so many more focal points, is that going to be able to help?
Well, why don't you announce that we're building a VR camera?
Okay.
I haven't seen one. I haven't seen it. They announced they were building one. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so from a content side, when you were sent out on Waikiki Beach and do touristy things, what did you think about to frame or capture something that would be kind of immersive experience for the user?
Well, that's more on the artistic side, but I mean, we do the same thing. It's a viewer where the closer you are to the camera, the more you interact with it. It didn't show it in the Honolulu shot, but we actually did one. Can we go back to that? It's a good reference for that. And I'll explain, because I have, this one. So, see what these people are doing yoga up here? What we ended up doing was taking the camera and not leaving it here, but this was a little walkway. And it actually gave us a barrier on each side to keep anybody from walking into it. So this is a little pathway here. We actually took the camera from the positions in here, and we actually positioned it here so that it was protected on either side so someone would walk into it. And then we did things that allowed people to walk around it. We had people walk by with surfboards, and we actually just asked people to interact with it. We were just shooting. There was no model, there was nothing else. We just dropped it there and kind of said, somebody said, oh, walk around. I said, no, walk. A project where they did VR networks for National Geographic. Great situation. So much light you didn't have to worry about it. Bright white light lit. Made life really easy for them. Then you had to carry it in sub-zero weathers, you know, and rigs as small as you could do. They used a little 6-camera sphere rig for some of this stuff. So you get the idea of how much perspective they were actually doing. So, you know, they're literally, you can just barely see here where the tripod was stuck. Where they stuck it in the snow. And they leaned up, you can see where he's got stuck his foot in the snow, and stuck monopod in the snow, and then they walked away, and then they let everybody walk past him. And it's interesting, because you think about that. How do I hide the camera? Where do I place the camera? What do I put it on? Traditional tripods are huge. Even for the kind of rigs that he's working on. The tripods get, you know, it's a 300 or 400 pound rig, that's a lot of support underneath there. How do you hide that? Where does it go? And do you really need to see your feet? I mean, let's be honest. Do you need to see the sky? Well, if you're at a concert, you really want to look up into the lights? So you kind of have to think about the kind of VR content you want to deliver. Not just, it doesn't always have to be the same 360 spherical. I'm content on my, looking on iPhone things doing, 360 cylindrical. Even the 270 cylindrical works on a mobile device because it's easy. On the headsets, you need a little bit more. But for the majority of people that are doing that kind of content, you really need to think about the delivery medium that you're going to have and how you produce that and how you deliver it. Stop. This is the Hawaii and some of the NFL stuff that I did, so I got there and there it is. So, we're doing it in the cold. It was 22 degrees, -3 Celsius when we shot this stuff. On the field, this is Soldier Field. This is the last football game of the 2015 season. Bears and Lions. It's a horrible game. Remember the shot at Waikiki Beach? This is where we are. Excuse the rather elongated assistant here, but I was doing a panel with my phone and they moved. So. And we shot, we did everything. We shot sunrise there, and then we came back and shot the end of the day with the dusk. so that we could see that. It was actually a lot of fun. Cliffs and scales. I mean, this is just to give you an idea. These things go anywhere if you think about it. And notice that we're using really, really lightweight gear. That junk rig weighs about 30 pounds with the battery and the external mic and that. Tripod weighs about 10. It's about the size of a basketball. A little bit bigger than a basketball. So you can pretty much go anywhere with it. And that's the virtue of some of these small rigs. You can put them in places and environments that you wouldn't normally think of. You put them in environments to show things that you wouldn't necessarily be able to show. This thing really might change the battery. It's really nice. The Hawaii things are fun, so I include them just because it shows up. I did that one already.
Have you experimented with different mic configurations then?
Different mic configurations? Oh, every time I shoot with a different mic configuration.
And what are some of the successes that you feel?
Well, I mean, how are you capturing it? How are you going to do it? Where they go? Do you use volumetric recording with a multi-source environment, or are you, doing multiple separate independent recordings? It kind of depends on what your specifications are.
I mean, we typically shoot with a kind of a tetra mic kind of a setup where you have, some directional information that's in sort of the, not really a scratch track, because that's not giving you enough credit, but we use that, and then we're running around with boom mics, and we're getting the cow mooing and the water flowing and whatever it might be. And so then when you rebuild it, you can get closer to the type of audio quality that you would have in a traditional mix that you might do for 5.1 or whatever it might be. So, it's definitely something that you can pan things around and do all that kind of stuff. But it's difficult, as we all know that have never mic'd anything, when whatever it is that you're micing is more than a certain distance away from 10 feet or whatever. Unless you've got a hell of a shotgun and not much background noise, I mean, it's just never going to be that good. There's just too much ambient.
Well, and you're hiding the lofts and things everywhere too.
Right. So it does tend to be a rebuild job if you really want to get the spatial part of it right, and also have quality audio. I haven't seen anything yet that we've tried 3 different companies that come out to shoot with us and test, and none of them, their original file that they created from the live shooting was anywhere close to what you would want to put out.
So
To become factors in determining how many cameras and how much overlap and how you can recreate a stereo. Those are all interactive issues.
So, we're getting kind of in here for questions, so thank you. Yes, sir.
So I tested out the Moscow 4-camera pretty a lot. From the viewing experience, I didn't tell that big a difference between viewing it on Samsung Gear VR versus Oculus versus HTC 5. Because you obviously don't have the ability to move around in the environment. You're just standing there watching stuff. I didn't see too much of a difference. How good you guys have experienced? I mean, just standing there, you're not.
It kind of depends on the content and how it responds to you. If everything's kind of a fixed difference away from you, you don't really get it. The funny thing about 3D is that the farther away from the screen, the bigger the effect is. People forget about that. And in VR, you want to be close to it, so you're closer to the subject, which is the exact opposite of what in a stereoscopic 3D space. You want to be farther away from the viewing distance, the farther away from the screen, the more the effect is pronounced. So it's the exact opposite of that in VR. So you don't have to spatial separation to do what you need to do sometimes. Really good.
Do you ever move the camera?
The question was, do we ever move the camera? And the answer is yes. A lot. You drove this around the back of the picture of you and the rig behind your Corvette.
Well, actually, I have an older Corvette, and it came with 2 different roofs. And I took one of the roofs, which is in pretty bad condition, and we just mounted a plate to it, an area plate to it, and put the 14 camera rig and drove it down the street. So it can be done, but you've got a lot of issues with differential motion blur as you're moving. So it's not the easiest thing to put back together with accuracy.
Yeah, that's where stitching starts falling.
And so for us, it becomes part of, if we wanted to cover more ground, we set up multiple units, which unfortunately is problematic since you're looking at, 50 cables with gear on each unit. So you don't get to do very many.
Believe it or not, I'm gonna reference everything, and there's actually on the Facebook fight site, they actually have a whole explanation of the different kinds of VR mapping. There's 22 different kinds, roughly 22 different kinds of VR mapping used in different spaces, with different kinds of volume and everything else. And it's actually a really good lesson to think about stuff. To build things, it teaches you how to correct things. It teaches you how to do things like, oh yeah, I've got something at the bottom here. And a lot of times, and that's one of the interesting things about how delivering VR is you're now going in and putting an icon at the bottom of your screen to cover up the tripod and the feet and everything else, which becomes where your logo goes. And it's a whole new way to market itself while also taking all the information out. So you have a great, and you don't think about how all of these different maps work. As visual artists to start thinking about the different mapping procedures, because this is going to explain how different cameras work and how multiple cameras are going to sync. And it's a simple explanation. It's a 22-page white paper with lots of big pictures. So don't be terrified by it. And don't be afraid to read it and go, this, because I had to do that. Same thing happened to me. I had to read it again and again and again to be able to get the information.
What site is this?
It's for Facebook. For Facebook VR, and actually if you search on Google for Facebook VR volumetric data white paper, or Facebook VR image data, it actually comes up. It's in the second or third hit. So, other questions for anybody? Because we only got about 10 minutes left, so yes, sir.
So this is kind of like just thinking long term, we're just down the road right now with the VR mapping. What do you think is the next steps?
AR. And this is where it really starts to be the next generation of the technology and everything else. Because when you start talking about virtual reality, you're holding an environment in that. But really what you're talking about is the ability to lay data information over the top of the set and understand it. So that you actually have this volumetric data information in there. And I mean, we're surrounded by AR now. You look at Google Translate, and you're like, I can go up and look at a sign in Japanese and translate on my phone. I can do it in Farsi and other languages. It's amazing, as somebody who travels the world like I do, to be able to use my phone in real time as a translator. I mean, Skype is doing that now in audio for that. And that's an interesting part about this, because you have to think about the next step of this is the overlay of live information. And particularly for things like medical training or industrial training where you're looking at something and it's going to be force feedback. There's a pair of glasses out now, I was showing the chef friend of mine, but they read temperature data. And they can read temperature data up to 900 degrees centigrade. And you can tune them. So the chef has his goggles and he just looks down at something and tells them how hot the pan is. It gives them a false color information on how the pan is. And think about using those things in all kinds of other industrial environments in news and anywhere where you've got information. And, I mean, one of the cool sides of that, hold your hands right. One of the cool things about that is think about, being medical and doing it in an environment where you're in Antarctica and you have to do surgery on somebody that you don't know how to do and you've never do that. And you've got somebody in your ear overlaying the image and go, no, point here, and it's actually through your eyes and showing you where to do and how to do it. And I've seen that in demonstrations already. One of the coolest ones I've ever seen was actually done for the Hemophilia Institute of Australia. But you had a question back there.
Yeah, it's just something I saw the other day, and like last week, you may even have been involved in this. Do you know who was involved with the VR rigs that were at the NBA games?
That was
Last week.
That's
that was digital domain.
I think it's digital domain.
I think that's digital domain. I do Major League Baseball. I do hockey and football, and digital domain did the NBA, and somebody else does the other sports.
And then Intel has like a looking in technology where they do like a 360 replay, and they've been running a little spot with LeBron James and so on. And that's their thing.
Did you have a question? Okay. So, but so you see, it's a lot of information. I'm gonna actually close out here as soon as we've got 5 minutes left. Let me do something here real quick. And I'll give you the idea of just some of the simple ways that the theta can be used. And this is actually just I'm just going to plug my phone in. Actually, the first thing I'm going to do is turn.
New York Times has a beautiful project called 360 Every Day, I think. 360 Daily, where they upload
360 Every Daily, yeah.
Articles, like news articles on 360 Every Day.
So I could go in here, and I have a full 360. This is a theta. And this is just a raw shot in Amsterdam. Here's the store I was talking about. This is an interesting one because this is actually in the studio at Hasbro. And this is their volumetric recording studio. The targets on the ceiling will allow them to map anything in 3D space. But this is a little tiny $300 camera, and you can see what it's like here. Let me just do this. And I could do this interactively, but I find it easier to do it when I'm tethered to actually use my finger to do it. And this one actually has audio. It's just me having a beer on the street in Amsterdam at IBC. It's like, how do you want the environment to be seen? How do you want it to show? So just give you with some of these things. Again, here was one of the restaurants. This is actually the food place. This is a meat counter. This is not the meat counter. This is cheese. But I mean, these become really good selling tools, and dropping these on Facebook has gotten to be a very, very interesting way to be able to sell locally to people and help local people deliver a greater amount of content.